All right, let's get started. It's just us. It ain't a lot of us, but it's us, and we're gonna do what we do. This is part two of the healing series. This is a different time. Um, I switched up the time because I loved how last Saturday went, just like morning prayer, 6:30 a.m., like just morning prayer. Like I felt like God was just moving in his own way. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just leave Saturday morning just like for God to do whatever it is that he wants to do. And then I want to also have moments like this where I can just talk about certain things, different topics. And right now we are doing the healing series. Let me just be very, oh my gosh. I'm just gonna right before I'm about to do this, I'm just going to be open and honest. It's like I got a lot. I don't want to say I got a lot going on, but y'all got kids. And when your kids get grown, it's just certain challenges sometimes that you go through as they're figuring themselves out. I'm not going to put too much there because it's out of respect for my children, but I just got one that is just trying to figure out life. And it's as a parent, when you're watching that process, it takes a patience like no other. When you've implanted certain things, but the world, they're doing their own implants as well, right? And it's just a difficult process to navigate and to watch and find that medium between of letting them develop and also not letting go too much. So that was on me pretty heavy, and like, God, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta come do this, and I gotta talk about you, and I gotta glorify you, and I'm going to do it regardless. So, like, I really need you. Anytime that I'm speaking or whatever I'm doing, I'm singing praise and worship on Sunday. I'm like, God, I need you to step forward. This is you. This is not me. And that's what I'm coming with today. It's like, it can't be me, right? It's no way it can't be me. But I just wanted to be open about that and just how I was feeling. um, so part two of the healing series. As I stated in part one, this is for me, it's healing for me. But it's also it's testimony. It's me sharing my testimony as I heal. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why this is healing for me. And this is me in full obedience. Um I feel like obedience has just been like my word for the last couple of months, like waking me up in the middle of the night. It's just on me so hard. Obedience, obedience, obedience. And so I know that months ago that God was leading me to something with women, Bible study, which I was like, now, Lord, we just getting started here. I'm still, I said this in the first video, I'm still learning the word, Lord. So what am I going to do, But I am going to be obedient because I have seen and I am seeing that he has kept me so uncomfortable in these last couple of months. Um, and even more uncomfortable in the last 4 to 5 weeks. But what I can say is the more uncomfortable I am, the stronger spiritually that I am beginning to feel. Um, there are so many areas where like so much stuff is just being revealed to me. And I'm like, it's so crazy because I consider myself someone who was brought up in the church. I'm from Philadelphia, Mississippi. I'm from the South. Like we were in church, multiple morning church, night church. Okay. On Sundays, we went morning and night multiple times during the week. I mean, we did it all, but I feel like now what I'm learning and I'm seeing, I'm like, I don't remember any of this growing up. So I really do feel like a baby. And so when I have to come and be obedient and do something like this where I'm talking about God, um, I feel like a baby in some ways. There are a lot of insecurities that I feel, but I am trusting in God. I know I'm just going to follow him. I know that he's not going to steer me into the wrong direction. So, um, but again, I said this is healing for me. Um, I had already written down everything that I wanted to talk about today, and it's so funny how God will do because he will uh, he will make you talk about what he wants. No, no, this is where I want you to go. This is what I want you to say. And so I had my little spill about, yeah, this is healing for me. And it was really cute. And he was like, but why is it healed? Why is you sharing your story, your past, your trauma online? Why is this healing? Let's talk about it. Let's really talk about it, Alicia. And so me being this open online is crazy because it took me a while to admit it, but I do have this thing with perfection. And it was crazy because I was like, man, where does that even come from? And just to even describe it even more, people who know me, like at work, who know me, friends, like no hair out of place, like Alicia put together, perfect, right? She aiming to be perfect. I'm definitely always aiming to be perfect. I'm starting to let go now, but it exists. And with perfection comes secrecy. And so for me to just be open and sharing the stuff that I'm starting to share is it's a lot. It's a lot. Like I said, he's making me uncomfortable. But anyways, as this was coming to me and this whole perfection thing, and I'm like, oh my God, God will really get you together. And I'm like, okay, well, where did that even come from? I talked to my husband a lot about this. It's like when I was growing up, like my big sister was so perfect to me. I mean, she could clean like no other. And still to this day, my sister will come from out of town. She doesn't stay in Texas anymore. And I love her so much. She will get up in some stuff. I'm like, I hire people do it. They come on, they do the deep cleaning. No, she wants to do it. But as children, she was just like my mom, very clean and neat and just perfect. And I was just very frazzled all over the place, very artistic. I love the arts, singing, music. And I feel like with that sort of personality comes like a little bit of chaos. I was a daydreamer. And so, I would go in to clean and my mom never was happy with it. My mom loved me, but she was lazy is all I heard. Like, you're so lazy. You're so lazy. I thought lazy was a sickness. And I'm not even joking. And so once I was growing and I finally grown 18 and I finally was on my own, I started to figure it out. Like my sister would be like, oh my God, look how clean this is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels really good when people say this to me about how perfect everything is. And I think somewhere in there, I kind of got this whole thing of just always being perfect and put together. So yeah, that's a whole other story for another thing. But that's why this is such a big deal because with perfection, I believe comes secrecy. And so now I'm healing and I'm revealing. Um, just a reminder, I'm not a professional speaker. I don't claim to be, I don't pretend to be. I'm not a therapist. I'm literally just sharing my testimony. It's for reflection, it's to spark conversation. So just wanted to put that out there. But anyway, so part one was on preparation. If you haven't watched part one of this series, I suggest you go to that playlist. You can find it on my channel. But it basically laid down the foundation for this. I did want to just share like a quick clip of what I talked about, just so you can have just a little bit of a view. And so we'll do that really quick because Zoom lets us do some pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to share that. Let's see, share screen and share sound. Boop, boop, boop. All right, so I'm going to share that screen. There I go. Oh, Lord, I look crazy. All right, here we go.
Wants you to heal. It's just giving up self, leaning on him, and creating a dependency on him. So, as I was getting ready to do this, there were a few things that were revealed to me. Now, listen, what I've learned as I built my relationship with God, he don't give it all to you. He will just reveal a little bit here, there, here, there, here, there. And you're like, well, what is that? What is that? But then over time, in due timing, in his timing, the full picture comes to display. So with this, obviously, I told you he revealed to me months and months ago about a women's Bible study. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. I'm still learning the Bible. Okay. I just finished the Bible after all these years. But he gave me healing, and then he gave me 4 words. I was driving to work, and it was preparation, past, present, future. And I'm like, oh, what? Okay. But you know what? I'm getting to the point. I'm to the point where I fully trust him. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, God, but I receive it. There were no other details. So my approach is just to tackle them one at a time. We have 4 weeks. I'm going to start with preparation, which now I have fully. And then we have past, present, and future, which, I'm still waiting on. So I'm sure it'll come this week. But preparation. So I feel like the best way to start this off is just, what is preparation, right? So I went to good old Merriam-Webster, and it says preparation is the action or process of making something ready for use or service, or of getting ready for some occasion, test, or duty. Let me read that again. Preparation is the action or process of making something ready for use or service, or of getting ready for some occasion, test, or duty. I feel like when I read that, I'm like, okay, I see why he gave me preparation. Let's go then. Listen, I want to be clear before I really, really dig in this, that none of this is my doing. I want to be upfront right now. We're talking about healing, but everything that I talk about, every part of my conversation is going to relate or coincide with my relationship to God. So I just want to prepare you for that. If you ain't ready for that, I don't want to put you to the door. I want you to stay in, because you may not be ready now, but you may be ready at the end of this conversation. But just wanted to let you know that, But anyways, the beautiful thing about people, it's what I love about people, we're all so unique. We interpret so many things differently. It can be based on your life experience. It can be based on our personality. It can be based on just a need. Like, what do I need to see in this? It's even true when you're reading the Bible, right? There may be a verse that someone interprets completely different from the way that you do, but your interpretation can be based on just your specific need at that specific time. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. So I just want to read that definition again. Preparation, according to Merriam-Webster, is the action or process of making something ready for use or service, or of getting ready for some occasion, test, or duty. Let me tell you how I perceive that. In order for God to use me in the way that he wants to use me, because he wants to use me, he wants to use you, I just have to take action. And I have to go through certain processes to make sure that I am ready for use. Ain't it good? Ain't it good? So I know, and I just talked about in the beginning, that he already revealed to me that first process, and that process is healing.
Okay, I'm not gonna stop the share. I'm not sure, is that like clipping? Like, it seems like the bandwidth is off. Y'all can let me know that. But anyway, so that's just a clip from the part 1. I'm still figuring out this whole live streaming thing. So if you follow me for a while, I may have live streamed like every blue moon, and it definitely looked nothing like this. everything is completely different on YouTube. So if there's some stuff messed up, we will figure it out along the way, but we're not going to stop. So um anyway, so at the last minute, as I was doing this as well, because again, God will check you. And I decided that I needed to have a little bit more scripture for us to go over. Because again, when I said this in part one, if you're talking about God, you're saying all of this stuff, God, wants you to be healed and all this stuff. Okay, ma'am. Especially depending on where you are with your journey, especially if you are maybe just starting a relationship with God, or now you're rebuilding a relationship with God, like me, you're like, girl, where that set up in here? And so I'm gonna use my little Mother's Day gift that I got here. And I just want to be able to come into the word a little bit. And it's something, this is a habit that I'm starting because I'm learning to go to the word and how to ask questions and go to the word. And so I just want to make it a habit as I'm doing this. So first place that I want to go to is Philippians chapter 4, um, verses 6 through 7. And I'm going to look at the NIV version because I just love the NIV version. It's so funny. At this point, I'm like, I got almost every darn version. But I was laughing with my husband because he had never seen the Message Bible or like read one. And so I'm right now I'm studying Exodus. And so there's a part where Moses is telling them, to hold your peace. That's the classy version. But when you go into the Message, what do you say? Shut your mouth. And we were just laughing. I'm like, the Message Bible, it's a little ghetto. It's a little ghetto. But in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 through 7, it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Or excuse me, where am I? I can't see. Present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And so I have this verse because, first of all, we're talking about healing. And I believe and I have seen through me rebuilding my relationship with God, one of the biggest things for me to have to learn was like prayer. And I don't know if that sounds crazy to people, but like I came up with, like, I could hear my mom praying in her room, like speaking in tongues. I don't know what kind of church you're from, but we speak in tongue. And I would hear her in there. But I never had that sort of prayer life. Like, you may get now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. You're gonna get some of that. God is great, God is good. Let us take it for it. But that's all I got. But I never had the sort of relationship of where I could, like, now this is my prayer room. This is where I pray. And I spend so much time in this room. Everything, if I'm going through something, like I said, when I'm going through something with my children, when I'm going through something at work, like, I'm coming up in here. As I have been rebuilding my relationship with him, I had to go through deliverance. And I did all of that from this room. There was a lot hours spent in this room, and like, God will get you to peace if you come to him, if you talk to him. Like, he gets you to peace. And so I think prayer, having a consistent prayer life, is so important to healing and talking to God. And I'm still learning, but I feel so much more comfortable. And this is a funny story. I'm adding so much stuff in that I didn't plan, but I love that because I mean, I really don't have a set time of how long I want to sit here, and I can talk about God all day, I feel like, now at this point. But we were at church and we had this service where God was like really moving. And we had a visitor, this girl, and she was just like talking about how, you know, how her relationship was with God, and how he had this kind of name that he would call her. It was a name from the Bible. I can't remember. And it was due to like some struggle she was having. But the way she was talking about him, I was like, oh, my Lord and Savior. I want that. And just her, it just sounded like, I'm like, I need to spend more time with him because I want to have these sort of conversations and interactions with God. And I feel like now that I've been spending so much time, like I can come up in here and I can be like, Lord, I don't got nothing to say. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired, guys. Just like what's going on, I can have that, and I'm so happy, and we still have so far to go. Like I'm still in the beginning, but I'm so much more comfortable with coming in this space. And I feel like now for the first time, like I'm having a real relationship with him, and I've built up because I'm not gonna lie, the reason, listen, I had a lot of church hurt, okay, and losing my mom and all the things that I'm going to talk about today will damage, especially if you don't know enough and you're not in a good spiritual space, and you just don't know enough about God. It will tarnish that relationship, and it will take away any trust that you had. And I don't even know if I ever associated trust with God until I needed to. But and then realizing like I don't trust God, my faith is questionable, very questionable, and having to really sit down and deal with that stuff. But all of that stuff has been built up through just spending time with him in prayer. There have been moments, I know I made a video where I'm like, there's sometimes, where I don't have a lot to say, where maybe I'm just exhausted, and I will just lay on this floor, and then things will just start to come. Like, I'm just like, God, I'm here because I'm not going to not show up. Every morning, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., the first place I come to is my prayer room. Okay. It is to the point where my husband, he will tell you, he will not even, like, he won't walk in here without me welcoming him in. And he gets on to my daughter, like, no, don't just walk up in there. Like, I gotta welcome you in my space. So just prayer, I think, is really key. But moving along here, so our thing that we're going to be talking about today in part two is the past. Um, and I think it's about facing the past. And again, this is about me revealing that is part of my healing, because my thing has been perfection. And with that perfection has it, I've had a lot of secrecy. And so it does nobody justice with me keeping that within myself, that I have a testimony. Because when I tell my story, and when you see who I am, you see what God, because only him has brought me out of, and he gets the glory. But he can't get the glory if I'm keeping it all to myself. So no matter how uncomfortable this may make me, I want my God to get all the glory, okay? Because it's no way. When I think back about some of the things that I was in, I'm like, I don't know how I came out alive. When I think about, I get emotional sometimes because I'm like, oh my Lord, I am still here. How? I know how now, but how? So that's the reason I am going to be sharing this. Listen, I have a lot to share, so I really had to kind of like decide what I wanted to share today, and that's sad that there's that much trauma in my past that I gotta I gotta kind of pick, or we'll be here for several days and probably longer than that. So um some of the top three things that I can think of that really, really impacted me. One of them was what happened to me as a little girl. I know we're on YouTube, so there's only so much that I can say about that, but things that happened to a child that should not happen to a child through males that your family may trust, and to an extreme, to a really an extreme. There was physical, mental, emotional, and starts with an S. And I believe it started around 6, and I went through that till I was about 8. Um, yeah. I also had a stepdad who was has still to this day has a substance abuse problem. And my mom's death, which I believe was probably like the final straw for me. I'm choosing today to talk about my mom because I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, people can relate to the other stuff, but most people can relate to loss. So first, I want to hopefully I can get this to act right, but I wanted to show and share some photos from my past, right? If we're going to talk about the past, let's share some stuff from the past. So let me see if I can share. Uh-oh. Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can share these photos here with y'all. Doo-doo-doo. They make this look so easy. All right, so we're gonna share this screen. Hope y'all can see it good. Okay, there I go. Look at me. That's Transformers. I don't even remember like I don't know why I'm in Transformers. Now that I look at this, and the bed is Transformers. Is that my bed? I don't even remember if that's my bed. I do also have to mention a lot of my childhood. I'm not gonna lie. Like I look back and I'm like, I don't even remember some of this stuff, but a lot of it I do, but some of it I don't. Look at me, y'all. I still look the same. I still look the same. Look how cute I am. I remember this. This was we were going to the rodeo, and y'all don't act like y'all don't recognize that couch. Y'all, mama had it. And I think we were at where is this McDonald's? We went to McDonald's a lot. The ribbons, don't y'all miss the ribbons, the barrettes? That's me in the hospital. Does anybody have their baby picture from the hospital? I love my mom for this. My mom took so many pictures. This is not even close to what we have. I'm like, my mom really loved me. She loved us because we have so many photos, and I'm so happy she did that. Uh-oh, they don't want you to see that. What happened? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, guys. Let me try to refresh and see if it'll come back. I had this problem earlier. Tried to be prepared. Okay, let's see. Now that we refresh. This is my mom. My mom was 6 feet, what, 6'2", tall, slim. And this is me and my big sister. That's my mom again. I'm my mom's child, okay? That's me. Y'all remember these little three-wheelers? Me and my big sister. My sister is still very much like this with me. My sister is so protective of me, okay? I love my big sister. This is all of us. My mom, that's me and my sister. There's my mom. I told y'all she was tall and slim. She did play basketball. If you're from Houston, she played at Sterling. Y'all remember cricket? This is us at church. Always been classy. I can't help it. Look at this. Such a lady. Such a lady. This is us at church again. See, we was going to church. I'm trying to tell y'all. I don't remember it. All right. I thought that would be fun to share some of the photos that we have. I think I love that about my mom because I know my husband, he doesn't have a lot of photos of himself when he was younger. And I'm like, oh, it's so sad. I get to go and just look at all my little stuff. But so let's talk about the past, guys. So my mom, I believe she had my sister at the age of 17. And then she had me at 19. So she was a young mother, a teen mom. Um, it actually was one of the reasons that my mom, and if you look at her, you can tell how like we're very similar, even in looks. And she treated me accordingly, treated me with love. She treated me with love, but I feel like she was she was way more strict on me than my sister. And she would say things like, I reminded her of her. And so she had all of these fears. Her fears were kind of justified. Like I carried, I guess, a similar spirit to her. And she just had this fear, you're gonna get pregnant, you're gonna be a teen mom, all of these things. And I didn't help the situation because I fell in love with this little boy. I was 13 and I fell in love. My poor mom, she didn't know what to do. I was just so in love. And that's my son's father. I was 17 when I gave birth to my son. So that just put more fear in her and just made her tighten up even more on me, which I think just made it really difficult for me. But she was trying to protect me. It was just, you know, you guys know if you've ever gone through that, you know. But she was born in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Um, And her mom, unfortunately, was really young when she died. My grandmother, I never met my grandmother. I've seen pictures of her. She was in her, I believe, like late 30s, maybe around 37, 38, when she died of a heart attack during a surgery that when I talk to my aunts, like my older aunts, none of them even know what kind of surgery she was getting. It was some secret. And that's just how it was when you're from Mississippi and just even back in those times, like you just certain things that you did not talk about. So she went in for it was supposed to be just a quick and easy surgery, and she didn't make it out. My mom was, I believe, maybe two or at the time, like she was very young. She's the baby girl. So my grandmother had 8 kids, 8 living kids, including my mom. She had, from my understanding, a couple of kids that passed away. So imagine being in your 30s with that many kids. So insane to even think about. But when she passed away, my grandfather, he was, I don't want to say Papa was a Rolling Stone, but he had a gambling thing and he liked the ladies. He was a tall, slim, chocolate, he was a nice looking man. Um, I don't know if he has a bunch of kids, but I know he had one pop up when I was old enough to understand that this person is popping up, and she was younger than my mom. So, um, but yeah, he wasn't present. And so the women, my older aunts, had to kind of take over. They were basically trying to raise the children. So they were young. So imagine being in your teens and early 20s trying to raise, 7 kids. So they eventually ended up, my aunt, I'm not going to say her name, my aunt moved the kids to Houston, which is how they ended up here. And it just wasn't a good situation. Everybody just kind of got spread out, were forced to be really independent. And the beautiful thing though, like when I think about my aunts, like my aunts are some of the strongest women that I know. I admire them. They don't have a choice. Definitely a little rough around the edges, but like beautiful women and just really strong women. I have one aunt who owns properties. They all have like an entrepreneur spirit. And I remember seeing that energy in my mom. She carried like that strong, independent woman energy, with some old school vibes, because when it came to their marriages and relationships, like these women keep the house clean, uh, cook, all of them cook. My mom cooked, loved to cook, can bake. But yeah, I just remember her being just very independent, very strong. And I believe my mom's highest education was like 11th grade, but um, she had two children. So and was trying to and she was living on her own. She eventually had to drop out. And I do remember that around the time of her diagnosis, it's really sad when I think about it because I feel like around the time that she got diagnosed with cancer, she was like, I'm like, things are finally looking up for my mom. Like, I feel like most of my childhood, all she did was like, I just remember her suffering, like working hard, suffering. And for the first time, like she was an administrative assistant at a waste management company here in Houston. And she was about to take the test for her GED. She had been in school and she was planning a cruise, about to like have her first, what I can remember, vacation. And I was so excited for her. So it makes me sad every time I think about it because I'm like, man, I felt like her life was just starting. Um, so yeah. But for the most part, um, I just remember when I think about being a child before she married my stepdad, I feel like we had the most perfect life. Like I just feel like everything was perfect. And it may have just been me as a child. You have certain parents that like they could be going through stuff and like you will never see it, you'll never smell it. And I just feel like everything was perfect when I look back. Even now, when I look back in the photos, I just remember just perfection. We looked perfect. She kept us in the best clothes. My mom was really talented at doing hair. And so our hair was always done. People would always compliment how we looked. Um, Christmases, like I look back at Christmases and I'm like, it felt like a dream. Like everything just felt like a dream. I remember like my mom, she even though she only had an 11th grade education, I remember her working at KFC and eventually she was like a manager. I believe she managed more than one location. She was the person coming there with plain clothes, keys to the safe. She was the boss. Like I remember that. Um, but unfortunately, women, what happens? She met a man. She met a man. And honestly, when I think back about my stepdad, outside of his addiction, like he was the most charming guy. And still to this day, like just a very funny guy, very playful. When you had such a rough upbringing like her, and then you get this guy that just makes you laugh all the time, I could see how you could be pulled in by that sort of personality. So, but unfortunately, this guy, he did not turn out, he turned out to be something else. And it's sad because she became pregnant with my brother and she ended up marrying him. Um, he just wanted to get married, and I believe they went to the courthouse, and then his family invited her to a surprise meeting. Maybe I believe days later, where they said, "Hey, surprise! He is an addict." And so then she starts piecing together, like, "Oh my God, money was missing, popping up. I'm confused. Where his money at?" So yeah, that was horrible because now I'm pregnant with his child. I'm in love with him. I just married him. You didn't want to have the meeting before? We couldn't have the meeting before. The okay. So yeah. And from that moment, once everything was out, I guess he just felt free. So everything just went on a downward spiral. Um, I just remember our life just being turned upside down. Like everything just became really different for me and my sister. I remember my mom losing her job, and it was because he actually was an employee at KFC, and they decided that why I have no clue why. I'm like, I didn't make that decision. You were the manager, but they decided maybe because he was a man that he would continue to work there, and she would just quit. And so she lost her job. And then I remember for the first time, financial issues just becoming more visible. And I remember we just started bouncing. back and forth from place to place, living with different people on and off. And then as he began to struggle more in his addiction, we even went back to Mississippi. We went back to Mississippi. She took us to Mississippi, and then we came back. And then we went to different, we're in Houston, we go to Nacogdoches, we go to Lufkin, we go to, I've stayed so many places I don't remember. And to be honest, I've gone to so many schools that I don't remember every school that I've gone to. I know that's kind of sad, but that's just how much we were bouncing around. Um, but I think the worst move of all was when I guess it had gotten so bad, and I was young, so I don't really know all the details, but it had gotten so bad that my mom, she was in Houston. She ended up getting pregnant again. My younger brother. So I have two brothers, and she could not take care of us for about a year or so. And so she sent me and my sister to my aunt who lives in Mississippi. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best situation because her son was going through some mental issues and had actually just been released from a mental hospital. And so I would just leave it here because that's a whole other story. And I don't know if this is even a appropriate place to share it, but some of the most demonic things that could happen to a child happened to me there, through his hands. And was a secret for many years until my sister finally opened her mouth some years ago. And I'll leave that there. I'll just leave that there. Family issues. But yes, so we were there for, I think, maybe about 2 years. Then our mom came back for us. She had visited in between, but she finally came back to us. But we were empty by that point. I don't think she really understood, or I don't think she knew. She did have suspicions, I found out later, but we were not talking because of the fear. There was physical, emotional, there was a lot. But she knew something was different, and I remember she kept mentioning it. She was just talking about how different we were, and how much we had changed. And I remember feeling like, I'm like, she's really bothered by this. And even I think sometimes it felt to me, just being me, this is me being bare, like she felt irritated by it, unfortunately. And I could see that as a parent, like you did such an amazing job. Like we were really great in school. Like we were the perfect little girls. We really were straight A. And then we come back and like you got two completely different kids. It's like, gosh, what is going on? So anyways, I'll say that for a whole other day. If we even do that, that'd probably be something I have to lock up somewhere where it's only certain people. But anyway, so this story is supposed to be about me losing her. So I'll jump through that, run through the next few years. So over the years, even after that, my mom stayed with my stepdad. It was on and off, just a lot of toxic stuff. Police here, police there, up, down, round, round, state to state, city to city, don't even remember. And finally, I was in my senior year of high school. By this time, my mom had finally separated from my stepdad for real, for real. I'm in my senior year, y'all. I'm 18. But we were at this point we were back in Mississippi. We had been back in Mississippi from like when I was in the sixth grade to my senior year, which is why I say Mississippi is my hometown because honestly I don't remember anything else. But my mom up and decided again one day in my senior year that she wanted to move back to Houston. But at this point, I'm 18. I have a child. I'm in my senior year. I'm on a roll. Like I told my mom, no, love you, but it's a no for me. I'm going to finish my senior year here. I need some sort of consistency. Like I cannot do this anymore. And so I stayed, Lord, like I know what I'm doing by myself, y'all, and taking care of a baby. And I'm a baby and finishing my senior year of high school. I found a friend to stay with. We were both really young. She had, at that time, how many kids did she have? 3 kids. early 20s. If she was she even her 20s? I think she was in her 20s by that point. But we were both young, trying to figure life out. I did finish high school, and after I graduated, I went through like a really deep depression. I don't know when I slipped and how I slipped, but I just like I was waking up not wanting to wake up. And I was like, my mom, she would check on me. And so she was calling me every day, and I was literally crying every day. And so then one day she was like, I'm coming to get my baby. And so she came to get me. And that's how I ended up back here in Houston. And so maybe about a year into moving, my mom, she got really sick. She thought she had the flu. She ended up getting better, and she just moved on. She ended up scheduling a hysterectomy. A lot of y'all know a lot of Black women have like issues with fibroid. That's something that like is with all the women in my family. And so she's like, I'm gonna get a hysterectomy. I'm not having any more kids. I'm done. And during the imaging for that process, that's how they discovered that she had colon cancer. Um, I don't think that like when she told us, I don't even know if I really understood like what that meant. Like, I don't remember ever really knowing anybody with cancer, or just maybe you see it on TV every now and then. I really did not understand. And it may have even, like, when I think about it, I was like, it may have even been her delivery, because I feel like she didn't give an emotional delivery. It was just kind of like very matter of fact. And it was just like, okay. I feel like she was really casual with it. Um, and so it was just like, oh, okay. I don't know if I cried. I don't remember crying. I don't remember her crying. It's just kind of, this is what it is. But from that moment, somebody who I felt like was perfectly healthy, um, like I felt like she just declined so fast after the diagnosis. Um, it's just like changes just happened overnight. She was just really sick. Um, and sadly, the sicker that she got, the farther away I got. The deeper into my own world I got. In part one of the series, I told you guys that I learned to control the things around me. I'm really good at it because I had to be. It's how I've been able to protect myself from the all of the abuse. And so I know how to avoid pain. That's it. That's easy for me. So I stayed away. I hid, I ran, I did everything, but, and this hurts me, I have to say, and this is huge for me to say on this platform, but I did everything but be present for my mom. Um, it angers me when I think about it now, because now I'm in a completely different state of mind. At that time, I was 18 years old, I was a child, and I think about now because she had her sister passed away from cancer, her older sister, and her sister-in-law, who she was like best friends with, passed away from cancer. And I was naturally just able to be so present for them. Like I was there with them and for them. And so in which you can't do this. And I don't harp on it anymore, but like, there's a part of me like I wish, I'm like, damn, if only I could have this mindset, this maturity, I would have been able to be present with my mom in the way that I was with her sisters. So it's something that I struggle with, but I've released that. I was a child. I was going through so much at the time. I can't hold on to that. But um I just remember there was a lot of judgment, like from our family, from our cousins, from her siblings. They were obviously they were really angry because they didn't really understand like where are you? Like why are you not here. But I don't know if anyone, like an 18-year-old child, like I think about my baby girl, if she lost me, I don't have any expectation that she would know how to deal with the loss of her mom. And I would understand if she ran. Um, but them being mad just made me run more. Like them being angry every time I tried to be around, it just made me want to be even more far away because again, I know how to deal with pain and you're causing me even more pain because you're mad at me and I don't want anyone to be mad at me. So now I'm just going to run away even more. But finally when my mom passed away, I'm going to be honest and say like I just felt and I don't, you'll only probably be able to relate to this if you've seen this sort of suffering, is I just felt at peace. Um, I knew she didn't have to suffer anymore. And then now, for me, I could just pretend like it never happened. I can just bury it deep in me, somewhere where I don't even know where it's at, and it where everything else is at, right? Everything else that I've been through, I'll just bury it there, and I'm just gonna move on. So I know I mentioned in the last video that I don't even remember truly grieving my mom's her death. There were a handful of times where I felt like I deeply cried for her death. When her birthday comes around, the day that she passed away, Mother's Day, I literally just treat it like it's any other day. Like I don't reflect. You may get an Instagram post with a picture, but it's not something that has affected me in any way. And it's not, again, I said this before in the part one, it's not because I didn't love my mom. I had a very close relationship with my mom, like my best friend. Like I would just go over, like once I moved out after school and work, I would just go over, like I was in college, I would just hang out with her and we would just chat. And I just remember her just being so proud of me, which I'm like, this is great because my mom, let her tell it, or I feel like I would not even let her tell it. I thought my mom thought worse of me than what she did because I found out after she passed that like I was the one that she like knew would be okay. And I'm like, I didn't feel that way. She was so hard on me. But sometimes that's why people are hard on you because they see your potential. But we would just go, I would just go over and chit chat. So it wasn't that, you know, a lack of love or lack of relationship. We had a very close relationship. I just didn't know how to deal with the pain at that time. So, but that is my story. I wanted to add this. Hopefully my husband don't mind. Sorry, husband. It's nothing bad. So, my husband told me about this story where he went to a seminar. And at this seminar, everyone had to tell their trauma story to different people over and over again. So, you know, say you're like how my mom passed away. Like I would just be going to different people over and over again, telling the story that I just told you guys, right? And so he said, well, at first, like, you start telling your story, like everybody was just crying, this happened, my mom died. And then eventually, after I told about 8, 9, 10 people, okay, everyone kind of was like laughing. Not that it was funny, but it was just like, okay, like I don't have any more tears to cry. So, um, my hope is that like, not that I'm going to ever laugh about it, and not even my hope. I feel like I'm getting to the point, like even just me now talking about it, like I feel so much relief. I don't want to carry my story on my back. I don't need to tell this story over and over again. This story is not, it's not who I am. It doesn't make me who I am. It's a small part of who I am and who I've become, but it is definitely something that God has delivered me from and saved me from. And I wouldn't have gotten through it without him, even though at the time, okay, God, I hear you. Even though at the time I didn't call out for him. through all the trauma that I've been through, I don't remember calling out for him. But one time, one time that I've ever was like, God, help me with this situation. And it was funny enough with my son's father. That was like the one time I'm like, God, I need you to help me get out this situation. God, I need to move on with my life. I need you to help. I had the deepest cry. But everything else, I don't ever even remember asking for his help, but he was always there. He was always there. Like when I look back now, I get so emotional because it's so evident how many times he showed up for me, how many times he comforted me. And that when I start talking about God, that's the part that gets me emotional. It's like when I talk about how God brought me out. But so how I wanted to end this is just talk about I wrote two questions. What are the negative things that I took away from those experiences? Right. I have to be honest. So I think one of the biggest things that I found now, and I only know this through the work that God is doing in me, is that I learned to not deal with things. I learned to not deal with my emotions. I even learned to like not like I learned how to avoid conflict at times. And so that's something that God is working with me on. I believe in, I don't know if it was a morning prayer, my last morning prayer video that I did where I was talking about how I had to come in this prayer room one day and I said, God, I'm not leaving here because I literally felt like one day, like something jumped on my back and I was carrying it for weeks. Like all my emotion, everything was shut off. And I'm like, God, something is wrong, and I am not leaving this prayer room until you fix it. And he did some deliverance that day. I lost my whole voice, not what I say, not my half voice, my whole voice. Um, but yeah, I learned to not deal with things, and I feel like I was just carrying. I feel like that has something to do with it. Like you have things deep in you, and when you're trying to strengthen your relationship with God, if you got little things like that hiding in you, the devil will use that stuff, man. Will use it, and he took it and tried to just prop it right up on my back. And I said, no, 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 no. That's not what we're gonna do here. And ever since that, I just feel like after I had that deliverance in this room, and thanks to my husband, who I got a praying husband, he came in here and helped put his hands on me. Thank God. But ever since that, I just feel like God's just he just put a shield around me. His angels just put a shield around me. And I just felt so safe. Um, and the next question was, what are the positive things that I took away from those experiences? I feel like it definitely made me strong. Um, and it also during that time, because I was dating my husband, he proposed to me in front of my mom. It was the last hug that I ever got from her. But it made me lean on him, which I don't think I had leaned on anybody and had no interest in doing so. Honestly, I'm like, Lord, thank you for this man because I don't know how this man stayed with me because I was so damaged that he was giving so much love. Oh, this is a whole other video. I'm not gonna give it all, but he was giving so much love. Like I was like, I had my guard up. I was nasty because I was like, no, what you want? I've never had a man do the things that you're doing for me, treating me the way that you're treating me. You gotta want something. Like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worth it. I had so much insecurity, like when it came to my looks, my skin complexion. I'm like, no, because when you from Mississippi, oh, they let you dark skin, you gonna know you're dark skin. That's a whole other story video too. So I had insecurities, but I'm like, I'm just this dark skinned girl. Like, what do you like? We don't get treated like this. So y'all have some deep trauma that I'm telling y'all about right now. I have some deep trauma, but you know what? The beautiful thing in this is like when I look back, I'm like, my past is really dark, but like my present and what I feel like my future, like in me somehow finding my way, I say somehow, but I know how, finding my way back to God, like is how beautiful is just way beyond my imagination. Like at this point, I'm like, I'm not even trying to even imagine it because I just want God to do his work with my future. But what I have right now is just beautiful. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Life is not perfect, but it feels good. I'm way more than comfortable. I'm happy. And yeah, my past, it doesn't define me. Did it give my foundation? Yeah, it did, right? There's nothing I can do to take that away. But I came on and I stacked some other stuff on top of that, right? Because it was unstable anyway. So now I got to build a fresh foundation. And I feel like I've built on that in the last years. And thanks to my husband, I'm just going to give him like props. Like, can I just talk about my husband a little bit? Can I just talk about him, y'all? I can barely even find the words. I do know because remember I told y'all that one day that I cried out? I believe that he is a result of the prayer that I screamed out that day as well. Um, but who I am, such a huge part of who I am is like that man has guided me. He has led me. I know in some of these relationships, which I haven't watched this stuff in a while, because God got y'all, he got me in consecration. Okay. But they talk about like a man leading and all of this stuff. Like I don't even have to hesitate to follow him because every promise he has made, he has kept. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just out here living, y'all. I'm just out here living because that's just how strong of a leader he is. That's how strong of a man that he is. And I feel like when you have that, and he got God. So let me add that in there. He ain't just doing it by himself, but when you have that, I feel like we need to put that out there. We need to celebrate that, especially in our Black men. So I just want to throw that out there. But um yeah, so that is all. I think that's all I have for today. I did I have another verse? Second Corinthians. Is that what I have for y'all? I'm just enjoying my little Mother's Day gift. I'm just enjoying my Mother's Day gift. I have been enjoying this thing. Who who is in my house? Nobody here at my house. I don't know who it is. Y'all see me over here being nosy. Nobody was having visitors today. Let's see here. Second Corinthians. What did I have? Chapter 1. I'm getting comfortable with this word, y'all. Y'all gonna see a huge transformation. Second Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 5. Let's see why I chose this. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion. Huh? Yes, I did. Okay. I'm still on live. He said, my husband. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Mm. For just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. I feel like it's kind of like the reason why I'm talking here now. Like your suffering is not in vain, and that it's a moment like this right now, right? It's my testimony that it's healing for me, but it also can bring healing to someone else. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. It wasn't the most organized as I wanted it to be, but sometimes I feel like God will just take you down his own route. And some of the stuff that I didn't even plan on saying, I said. So what I said is healing and revealing. But I also want to add, I talked about this in part one that, I made a decision that yes, I have God, I trust him, but I also know that I need help, right? And so I have God's help, I have his direction, his leadership. And one of the things that he's really been working on me is just my health, my health. And it's so crazy because I never would imagine like again this sort of relationship with God where I'm like he is a father. He is a caretaker because he is directing you shouldn't be eating that. You shouldn't be putting that in your body. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. You need to go to the doctor. You need to get this checked out. You've been talking about this. You've been wondering about this. Y'all, he has been on me. But I do have a therapist now. My first lady had to call me out about it. And after I was like, now when your first lady got to call you out, because I'm like, this was one of the things that was on my vision board. It was on my vision board and I did not follow through. And then it took her just like checking on me and like, hey, have you done this? And I'm like, well, I don't have nothing against it, but I haven't done it yet. I'm supposed to do. And she like, and so that told me enough. She didn't have to say enough. She didn't have to say much. So I do have a therapist, and so I'm hoping to just, as I was saying before, I need to feel some of the things that I've gone through. I've buried a lot of things in me, and I have never dealt with them. I've never been, I don't think, angry about them. I've never been um, hurt. I haven't mourned. And I'm hoping that I am just able to do all of those things and really feel real emotions about some of the things that I've gone through and then move on. Right. So I will hopefully be able to update you guys on that. I look forward to hanging out with you guys in the morning during morning prayer, 6:30 a.m. We're getting up early. We're making God the first thing that we do in the morning. Last weekend was just beautiful the way that I felt like God was flowing. I almost didn't come on, but I came on and he just does what he does, right? He works. So thank you so much. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. I look forward to doing more of this. This is this is very hard for me. And tomorrow I can't wait to talk about the audacity because that's how I feel. That's a word he gave me. I'm like, who am I to be here? I don't know enough. But what I do know is what he's done for me, what he's doing for me. And so I will take every opportunity to share his word, to glorify him, to make sure that everything that he's done for me is not in vain. And so, yeah, there's a lot that I don't know. It's still a lot that I don't understand. It's still a lot that I'm building up. But what a pleasure to be able to share that journey because there's so many people who want to walk in this journey and they're afraid. I'm afraid, right? I have moments of being afraid, like, God, where are you taking me? What are we doing here? Um, and I'm uncomfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm sure that's apparent. But I'm like the audacity for you to feel like you can do this and get on here and talk about God. But I'm doing it. But I look forward to seeing you guys in morning prayer tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Adios.